Hey TB, I'm James.
And I'm Steven.
Hey, and we just wanted to really quickly answer your questions, the two questions really, on whether you like modern military shooters or whether you dislike modern military shooters. So, really going to start with the single player aspect, okay? There's definitely some things I don't love about single player in modern military shooters, and I've played my fair share. So, definitely kind of one of the big things is I notice, especially if a campaign drags on, is that the game will become a shooting gallery, right? You're fighting the same enemies, you're just clicking on their heads, and it gets really, really repetitive, really, really fast. Steven, any comments on that?
Yeah, I think also partly to deal with that is that, especially I've noticed in Modern Warfare, they have a tendency of not so much just having a set amount of enemies, but just having these waves until you move past a certain checkpoint. You have stuff like Uncharted, for instance, which is similar kind of thing where you're very guided storyline, but there's only a set amount of enemies that you go to until it just stops. The action's done and until you move on to the next point. Where Modern Warfare, it's kind of like you're sitting there, you're kind of being tactical, but it's not helping you any because there's just going to be infinite amount of waves to people.
Right, until you move on to the next area. That's definitely fair. Which definitely some of the gameplay can get very, very boring, right? Because it is repetitive, and definitely there's sections in, say, Battlefield 3 campaign where you're playing and you don't really realize that you're supposed to necessarily move on to the next room, right? You're just stuck here and you're shooting all these guys and like, oh, I'm still shooting. And like, like my sergeant over here is pointing for me to go this way. I could have skipped the last 10 minutes of mowing these guys down if I just looked over here, but I didn't even realize. So that kind of takes a lot out of you because you're like, wow, that was really, really boring. So then kind of some other things that really they're very repetitive. They're very kind of like popcorn flick kind of movies, right? They're not redefining the industry. Okay, they're not these works of art, and believe me, I really appreciate good works of art in gaming. And really like complexity in gaming too. Like why is it so simple? You're just clicking on heads, right? I mean, Angry Birds, you could argue, has more complexity, right? Instead of guns, you have different kinds of birds. And you have to strategize like which birds are going to be shooting at what. You got to plan your attack, right? And then you're not just clicking on heads. You actually have to plan trajectory and everything. Whereas in modern military shooters, it's just kind of the repetitive. Just I got a different gun now. It's like, oh well, it kills people. It does the exact same thing as the last one,
Yeah, I mean it's definitely no like Rainbow Six or something like that.
Oh, absolutely.
Like I don't know, maybe if they moved more towards a Rainbow Six sort of style, where you actually had a lot more tactical based stuff going on, they could make them a lot more interesting. Right.
No, why can't I be the sergeant? Like, why can't I be the guy telling these other guys where to go instead of me, sitting there and being told, like, oh, go here, Ramirez, blow up that car. Yeah. So kind of one other thing on why they're kind of weak is, this kind of bugs me sometimes. I really wonder, are we belittling like actual soldiers, right? It's a modern military shooter, and especially Modern Warfare. They pride themselves on doing all this research and making the guns look and feel just like they do in real life, right? But I just really wonder, like, do soldiers come home and play these games, or when they're deployed, just like playing these games, like, man, like, do people back home really think we do this stuff? Like, are you kidding me? It's like, oh man, I've been deployed for 6 months. Like, well, I may have shot 2 guys, and it was a lot more emotionally scarring, And in this game, like, I've probably got a kill count of like 3,000. So that it definitely kind of detracts really from the good feel of a campaign. But really, I mean, moving on to kind of more really why I like single player in modern military shooters. Okay, I love reading books. I love learning stories about people and what happens with that. And I really feel like campaigns in modern military shooters really give you that good like helping of a story, right?
Yeah.
That you don't take too long to get through this game, right? I mean,
probably around like 5 hours or so. I think they usually last.
And while that can be bad, like I'm reading Rainbow Six from Tom Clancy, right? And like all the missions are like super action packed, and I love it. And then all the parts in between are just so slow, and that book is like 800 pages. I'm just like, why can't this book be like 120 pages? Just like full of action. And that's really, you get this full story. You connect with Soap and Price, in Modern Warfare, in that trilogy, and you really start to like really enjoy these characters and see what they're doing. You're traveling all over the world. Sure, it's kind of ridiculous, but I mean, it's not any more ridiculous than any James Bond plot line. So that's you really get to sit down and play it. Now, I love games like Dear Esther and even like Limbo. They're very, very short games. You can kind of compare them, but unlike where Dear Esther, like you were told the story, but you basically just walk around, right? Whereas in Modern Warfare, like you're told this story about heroes, and villains and saving the world and everything, but there's actually full-on gameplay associated with that, and so I really, really enjoy that part.
Yeah, I mean, I guess whenever I look at an FPS, I'm not really expecting too much of a great story. I mean, there are games out there as of recently, like Spec Ops: The Line, where they kind of have more of a game, but that's a very single-player focused game. But I think Call of Duty or like Battlefield or something like that, I'm not thinking, man, I can't wait for that single player to come out. I'm thinking more about multiplayer. And so having just this short, really fun little like movie-based game is it's okay with me. I mean, I guess I'm not going in there expecting something really big, and so I guess it's hard for me to judge it too much because I just don't care about it being the best game ever for a single player.
Well, I look at it this way: if you took out the gameplay part of it, maybe it's repetitive, maybe it's a bit annoying, but if you took out the gameplay part from a single-player campaign, what would you have? You would have a 2, maybe 3 hour movie, of this game that then you play a bunch of multiplayer for, right? So, but wouldn't we complain about that? Like, being able to play in this movie is actually very, very entertaining to me.
Definitely a very, very visceral experience, especially like the first couple Modern Warfares, for sure.
Yeah, no question. Especially, too, I have so many good memories of Modern Warfare 2, running over the rooftops of the favela trying to get to the chopper. Definitely the part where Soap, I think it's Soap, you corner this guy in this house, and then Soap, like, slow-mo, like, pushes him out the window, like, lands on top of him on this car. Like, that was ridiculously adrenaline-filled moments, where I'm just engrossed in the story, and I'm not really too worried about the fact that, like, wow, I just, like, fired, like, 3,000 rounds in that level trying to get to this guy. So, yeah, really just the set pieces, really, in that, so.
Yeah. And so I think overall, I think we're kind of both in the same opinion that overall we're okay. We'd say probably that we like modern military shooters as far as the single player goes. I mean, there's definitely downfalls, but at the same time, I feel like those downfalls don't really detract from it because I don't think many people are going into games like Call of Duty or games that they know are really big on multiplayer expecting some great experience out of the single player.
Right, you're not expecting a Mass Effect, not Mass Effect 3, a Mass Effect 2, let's say, right? You're not expecting that. You go in expecting a very action-filled game where you get to watch guys be super awesome and you get to be super awesome alongside them. And you get to enjoy that. So yeah, I definitely thumbs up for MMS single player, even if it's on rails, even if it's very linear. Okay, so kind of moving on to the multiplayer aspects for modern military shooters. Right. So really something I actually really, really love about multiplayer, and it's something that I think modern military shooters do really, really well, even compared to game like RPGs and MMOs and things like that, is the ability to kind of find your style and play it, right? You have hundreds of guns, all with very different stats, all the perks, secondary gear, armor, and definitely like in Battlefield 3, like you have these classes where you can fill different roles with each of these classes, right? And these are all, and not only that, but each class is really very kind of integral to accomplishing your missions on the battlefield, right? Reviving people, giving them more ammo, being a heavy weapon spotter, different things like that. Like that can be, you really get to have this very, very unique playstyle that is really not in a lot of other games. And I really, really appreciate that. So then also the variety among MMS games in general, right? So obviously the big comparison, Battlefield and Call of Duty. Now, and so if I really want to play a game where I'm going to be a part of a team and I'm going to be like, okay, what are our objectives? Like, okay, we don't have enough people capping B, or like I'm going to sit back and hold C and defend this here because I know bad guys are going to be coming. I'm going to let my team run forward and get A, right, and cap that point. So, right, that's really fun. It's very satisfying when you're working with the team. Or if you wanted to play really just more of a true single-player experience, like I'm going to go out and by myself kill a whole bunch of guys. Doesn't matter what the rest of my team's score is. I'm just gonna get a bunch of kills and just be awesome. Then I go play Call of Duty, and that's really really fun as well. So really, kind of the variety is there in the whole genre itself. So yeah, Steven?
Yeah, I mean, I guess on that point though, before I go to mine, is that it just seems like, is that really enough variety? Because I feel like in the end, you can easily do. You don't need a team to get from A, B, and C. Really, you can just easily do like Battlefield. You can easily do that solo if you wanted to.
Yeah, if you're really good, I mean, yeah, you can't run around just like cap C by yourself, run on cap,
Yeah.
D, cap B again. Yeah, and just kind of carry a team. That is for sure. It's not required to work with a team, but
Yeah.
well, I mean, but you got guys on the ground, and like if you don't have any air support, like that's gonna really suck for you if the enemy has helicopters and bombers. Like you really do kind of need somebody up in the air taking that out for you. So
True. Yeah, I mean, I guess the only other real pro I have to add is that you do have a really huge wide player base right now, especially for these games. I mean, you look at how many units these sell each time, and just ridiculous amounts of numbers. And so, I mean, you're definitely not going to be lacking in people to play with, unlike some other games, like for instance, Assassin's Creed. You try to play that multiplayer, especially on PC, and it's pretty much dead. So
well, with the new one coming out, hopefully that'll
that'll probably increase. But I mean, you definitely have a huge player base compared to other types of games. So I mean, that's definitely always a plus. You're going to be finding some game.
You could drop the game, come back 6 months later, and know that you're going to get basically the same wait time to get into a game as you did when you first bought it. Yeah, definitely. So then, I mean, some kind of detractions from multiplayer. It definitely has its downsides. And kind of, I mean, this is really something that's inherent to really any game where other people are going to be part of your game. And that is going to be that other people can ruin your game. Right?
Yeah.
They can be trolling you. I mean, if friendly fire's on, that can really suck. I know you've played plenty of Counter-Strike. I'm not sure if that counts as a modern military shooter, but Counter-Strike, you have friendly fire on, and you get guys coming in just completely trolling, and just wiping you out. And I mean, just people talking, people being really annoying, people not focusing on the right kind of objective. Things like that can really kind of ruin your day, and then you're just not having fun. And it's really not your fault or the game's fault. It's really just other people playing. Oh my gosh, my biggest, pretty much the day I stopped playing Modern Warfare 2 was the day when I hit 70. I think 70 was the highest. I hit level 70. I had all these guns unlocked, and I'd been working on these unlocks for all these guns and had leveled them all. But I was like, oh sweet, like. I'm gonna be able to keep I want to get my prestige up, I want to work on these guns and get them to be awesome. And then it's prestige time, and it's like I want to reset all my guns. Are you serious? I'm gonna lose all these sweet guns that I've unlocked all the add-ons for. Are you kidding me? Oh my gosh, I got so mad. And then I watch guys doing commentary on YouTube and things like that, and they're talking about oh yeah, I'm going to get the game, and then I'm going to try and probably get up to 7 or 8 prestige, and then start really working on my sweet skins, like the golden skin for weapons in Modern Warfare 3 and stuff like that. I'm like, what? Prestige 7? Are you serious? Why do you have to wait? What? I mean, it's probably, for the best player, it's got to be 50 to 100 hours of game time to get to Prestige 7 before you actually start, doing what you want to do. Are you kidding me? That just, the grind is just killer, for people who really want to show off, and really why are you playing Modern Warfare and trying to level up? You're not trying to show off. So.
Yeah, and I think part of the inherent problem with the grind is the fact that they introduced this whole idea of unlocking stuff. I mean, if you look at older games like Battlefield, the first, or Battlefield 2 and Battlefield 1942, or you look at games even Call of Duty 2, which is right before Modern Warfare.
Yep.
There was no unlocks, and I feel like I had the most fun with those games because I had the guns, I just chose a gun, and I felt I automatically gravitated towards a certain gun or a certain class in regards to Battlefield games.
Right.
And I enjoyed playing those, and everyone was at an equal level.
Yeah, why should you be forced to play the first 30 levels with crappy guns?
Yeah, I mean,
absolutely.
I think a game like that comes down to it's more fun when everyone is at the same level. I mean, obviously there's going to be better guns than other ones, I mean, you know,
in a game that's based on stats.
Yeah, I mean, you know, certain maps, you know, you're going to be wanting to use certain guns over others.
Good point.
And you know, I mean, so I mean, there's things that go into that, but overall, like having the same gun, knowing the person on the other side is, it comes down to basically just your skill. There's nothing else to it. I think that's a good thing about. I think that's why Counter-Strike lasts so long, especially in a scene, a very competitive scene, is that. Yeah, I mean, they do little stat tweaks or whatever, but I mean, basically everyone has the same guns and they can get to it as long as they have the skill to acquire those guns.
Right. You load up the game, you start your first game. First round, everybody has pistols. You know, next round, everybody kind of levels up SMGs, some shotguns, and then third round on, everybody's going to be kind of gravitating toward, like, you know, the snipers are getting their, you know, the big, man, I wish I could remember the name, but, you know, the big sniper rifles. You get the guys who just stick with their shotguns and heavy armor. Absolutely. I mean, everybody has access to the first round of the game that you play.
Yeah. And I think just like a big thing that's probably, I think maybe for me at least, the biggest thing about MMS is that it's just a very stagnant genre, I think, at this point. I mean, as we were talking about with Call of Duty 2 and Battlefield 2, like those are all set World War II settings. And you look up to the point basically when Modern Warfare came out, like everyone just like, man, another World War II shooter. Like, really? Like, it's like we need something different. And so this modern
military. We still
military,
get them and we still react the same way.
And so this modern military shooter came out. It was a nice breath of fresh air. And
right.
So, I mean, obviously every people are going to make that, but that actually starts selling. And then now we're here, you know, like 5 years down the road and we're just getting tons more military shooters. So it's just, you know, I mean, I guess right now maybe it's best to look for what's going to be that next new thing. Like, who's going to be that person that's maybe going to move away from modern military shooters and have a new genre. And I guess that's what I'm kind of waiting for.
Right, and still be that juggernaut, you know, but for good reason, the same way that Call of Duty 4 was a juggernaut for very good reason.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. There you go. Okay, so general consensus here. I really enjoy single player and multiplayer. Definitely, I mean, that's really where the money you spent, you know, you really get that value because you're going to play a whole lot. You're going to really, you know, get attached to these guns, and it's really enjoyable. So I really say both sides of the spectrum. The games are worth buying, and it's worth having both parts of the game there.
Yeah, and I think for me, I would say that I do like the single players. I don't think there's anything so bad with them that, you know, there's a reason to take them out or a reason to hate on them too much. But then, as far as the multiplayer, I mean, I might be a little biased just because I've never been too good at them. But I don't know. I want to see something new, and so I would say overall, I probably dislike it and dislike the way they're moving with it, with the prestige and unlock-based systems.
There you go. Yeah. All right. So yeah, just want to post this video because obviously have a lot more thoughts that can fit in the comment section. So, you know, definitely just people, I mean, comment on this one. Like, let us know, like, do you disagree with the stuff? Did we get some facts wrong? I don't know. But yeah, anyways,
probably.
Yeah, probably. There you go. I'm James.
I'm Steven.
All right. And thanks, TV.